Perhaps the most accomplished player in NBA history, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won a record 6 league MVP awards and 6 NBA titles, owner of one of the game's most unstoppable offensive weapons, the skyhook. He still stands as the game's all-time leading scorer.
Crowd stand for Kareem to get the ball. It's into Kareem. Kareem swing left, right hand 12-footer, good! The new king of scoring has ascended his throne.
Kareem, oh my gosh, number 33. When he burst on the international scene with the fold-out cover of Sports Illustrated. I was in high school and I wore number 33 because of Kareem. And he was just the most incredible player that I'd ever seen. He set such a standard of excellence, and his relentless search for perfection just established himself as this remarkable beacon, ideal of what a basketball player, what a human being could be. I wanted to play on the same team, in the same program, the same history, the same legacy that Kareem had created and given so much to UCLA. Kareem, he was the greatest player that I've ever played against.
The first time playing against Kareem, but the first time he was Lou Alcindor, and he just created just an incredible challenge for me. He was with the Milwaukee Bucks and had the interleague matchup, Milwaukee Bucks against the Kentucky Colonels, and that was my first time, competing against this giant of a player.
Kareem and I grew up together. I've known Kareem since I was 14, so I've seen the metamorphosis of a basketball player that started out at 14 and ended up being probably the greatest scoring center in the history of the game. I do remember that when Kareem was a freshman, he wasn't as talented as he was his sophomore year, and between that year, I think I remember him going up to Cookshus with Wilt. And I think Wilt had a lot to do with a maturation of Kareem's game.
Kareem is a long story. There's a lot to unpack with Kareem. I met Kareem when he was Lou Alcindor. I didn't really meet him, but I played against him in high school. One Christmas, we had a tournament. Power Memorial came up from New York to play us in that Christmas tournament. We ended up beating them 78-74. Fast forward, going now to the early 70s when Kareem became a teammate of mine with the Los Angeles Lakers. I used to remind him all the time about, how much fun it was that we beat you at in Schenectady, New York, and he always, if it wasn't for those officials, we would have busted your chops. And he said, by the way, I came back the next year and we played again, we beat you by 50. I said, yeah, but Kareem, I wasn't there. I was at the University of Kentucky at the time. And so we always had these little conversations that turned out to be funny about those moments.
The first year when I met Lou, I was a sophomore and he was a freshman.
This 7-foot, 1.5-inch giant is largely responsible for the unbelievable records the Bruins have set in the last 2 seasons. A superstar in the making.
We were playing out in UCLA at Poly Pavilion, and we were playing Oregon State, and Kareem, began to holler, hey, give E the ball, give E the ball. We was playing against him, and he was cheering for us. And it was one of those things where I think that after that, when we began to play against one another, then all of a sudden, I think the tension between Russell and Wilt, all of those years, it kind of happened with Kareem and I. I think that when we began to play against each other, there was such a challenge, and it was just every game. I wanted to destroy him, he wanted to destroy me. And it was one of those kind of situations that kind of bloomed and kind of grew to become, a really challenging situation.
When I first met Kareem, he was in high school at Power Memorial in New York City. And then years later, was traded to Milwaukee. Kareem was second year. He was learning a lot of different things. He'd just come out of UCLA where they won a championship. and went with the Bucks his first year, and they got knocked out of the playoffs. So when I got there, I guess we felt we could do some things that were great for the city of Milwaukee and great for the teammates as well.
Great guy. Big fella. Hey, Luke. Big fella. Luke, congratulations. Oscar just paid you a great compliment. You had a great series. Congratulations.
Kareem was truly about team, and he was about winning, but didn't speak about it a lot. But you can tell him, Cap, you got it? Wouldn't say anything, Rouse would ask him, Cap, you got it? You got everything? Yeah. And Kareem wasn't the kind of guy that, come on, you guys, every now and then he would do it, but he wasn't about, come on. He knew what to do.
To Cooper, dribble drive down the middle, lay to Kareem, and Kareem scores.
He knew we had to go through him. The ball. That was fun playing with Kareem. Well, just absolutely fun.
Zeke, you came into the NBA during the prime of Kareem's career. What did you learn firsthand that maybe you hadn't realized from watching him on TV?
Unfortunately, Matt, I came in during the prime of his career. And, when you watch them on television, you think they're good. But then when you actually get a chance to play against him, not only do you realize how good he is, but how smart he is. And I remember I was a designated double teamer, so we double teamed Kareem every time he touched the basketball. And Magic threw it in. My job was to come back and double team. So I come back and I double team. My hands are up. I'm like, And I remember he looks me dead in my eyes and he goes, "Hey, is this your man?" And he drops it right over my head. Magic lays it up. I mean, he was so smart and, just a consummate professional. Every time he walked out on the floor, you knew he was going to try to give you his best performance.
And you played against him in huge games over the course of your respective careers, in his 30s, into his 40s even. What did it mean for you and your teammates and your coaching staff as opponents to game plan against Kareem?
Well, everything started with Kareem, and it wasn't the Lakers. It was like, okay, this is how we're going to guard Kareem, and then everything came after that. So we would try to double team him. Sometimes we would try to triple team him. But every time he touched the basketball, it was like a double team or fake. But you couldn't give him the same look every time because, again, he was so smart and he read the defense. He was almost like playing against Tom Brady. Can't give him the same look every time because they're just going to pick you apart. And for all of us, during that period of time, Kareem was, every time he walked into the room, it was like music was playing, like, And as people know, I think he's the greatest player to ever play. He's my GOAT. But, what he was doing outside of the playing field during the time when I was a teenager and the social changes and the impact that he was making in society. And then you walk out on the court and you see number 33 in purple or 33 in gold. And you're like, wait a minute, that's him. That's the dude. But that dude is like hooking you. So game planning against him was extremely difficult.
As a physical specimen, at 7 feet, 2 inches tall, with that sky hook, which requires incredible balance. No one's been able to replicate it since. What kind of an athlete are we talking about?
I don't think people realize how great an athlete he was because 7'2", but then he probably had like a 36, 38-inch vertical. I mean, Matt, a lot of times when he shot his hook shot, like this was the basket, he was shooting it like this, just throwing it down. And there was this great picture of him shooting a hook shot over Wilt Chamberlain. And Wilt was like, very athletic himself. But Kareem is like maybe 2 to 3 inches over Wilt, just shooting it down. And, he was gifted, he was strong. And again, just his grace, his professionalism, and just how smart and dominant he was. You would think like after a game, you'd be like, man, we did a good job against Kareem. And then you look at the stat sheet and it's like 26 points, 15 rebounds. Now, the times that I was following him when they were playing against the Celtics, watching him playing against the 76ers and Moses Malone, watching him compete against other great teams because, man, we hadn't become a great team yet. But Boston always was a great team. So watching him having to win in the Garden and compete against McHale and Parrish and Bird and just seeing him rise to that other level, at an age where he wasn't in his prime. I think Kareem won the MVP out of the league or the MVP of the series when he was 36 years old. That's how great he was.
That's part of the story as well, his longevity. Unbelievable.
He's unreal.
The way you just say Kareem, you say skyhook. I mean, which is the most unstoppable shot ever made in basketball.
The skyhook, to this day, nobody's ever replicated a shot.
I just think he's simply amazing in how he took a shot and just mastered it, and nobody can duplicate it.
And I asked him one time, and I said, Kareem, since we are jazz cats, the two of us, so I said, what would be that patented jump, that hook shot you got, the sky hook? What does it feel like if you were a musician? He said it feels like John Coltrane playing the saxophone. And I said, yeah.